Yes, thanks, Sean. It is. It's time for Holier Than Thou. This is what we do on a Friday, and we've got to keep track of the people who won't engage, don't we? It's part of what we do here. So who's had the phone off the hook this week? We'll start off with the PPTA, the Post-Primary Teachers Association, who this week had their annual conference in Wellington, which... in about sort of Kilburnie, one of those leafy suburb areas. What was discussed at the conference? Was it the persistent decline in numeracy and literacy standards amongst New Zealand students? Was it the fact that kids here are among the worst behaved in the OECD? Was it the apparent rise in assaults and bullying? It wasn't any of that. Instead, it was the Wellington and Lower Hutt PPTA regions putting together a report advocating for high schools to have rainbow liaison officers. These would be paid roles which would concern themselves with finding safe spaces for what they call queer high school age students and talking to them about their sexuality, gender and sexual orientation. Thank goodness the PPTA put this report together and responded to what has to have been a tsunami of demand from parents in this country for strangers to hang around their high school aged kids and talk to them about their sexual preferences. The report reckons that approximately 1% of high school aged students self-identify as transgender or non-binary, and about 0.6% of high schoolers are unsure of or questioning their gender identity. That's a much more important statistic, of course, than the 78% of the Year 8 students who can't do maths properly. Now, of course, the PPTA is free to do whatever they like and make whatever recommendations they see fit. That doesn't mean that their recommendations will be picked up by schools or the Ministry of Education. And given the government's blatantly clear instructions to teachers and schools to resume a basic structured education program for students, it seems extremely unlikely that it will be adopted. It does seem a little odd that the Post-Primary Teachers Association seems hell-bent on ignoring the government's preferences for back-to-basics education and is content with screaming into the void about rainbow liaison officers. They, of course, did not front up anyone to talk to us about why they came up with this report and whether the parents had been really concerned enough about the present deficit of rainbow liaison roles in schools to warrant a full-blown report on it. So they get a mention here instead. Also refusing to front up this week was Pauline Harris, Associate Professor at Massey University with a PhD in astrophysics, who now focuses her career on Maturanga Māori and the advising of the government on Māori space matters. She was on the news this week with TVNZ's Breakfast, complaining that the government's new space program didn't mention the Treaty of Waitangi, nor did they approach her group, the Māori Working Group on Aerospace, in the drafting of the policy. Now, exactly what the ever-expanding vacuum of outer space has to do with the Treaty of Waitangi was one of the questions we wanted to put to the professor, and so I was delighted to report initially that she'd agreed to come onto the program. Of course, she did pull out, but not before about 8 p.m. the night before, which is much longer than some of her colleagues have lasted. Why she pulled out, we don't know. It was either because we found out she'd been given 40 grand worth of taxpayers' money to consult on the previous space program and hadn't done anything on it, or it was because she developed a cold. The jury's out on which one of those two that is. That's Holier Than Thou for today. All the people who haven't responded to our inquiries and who won't tell the truth directly to us and to you lot.